your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a seventh-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
He's going to be number one overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a tape that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's
over
not
a seventh-round pick
There were two
who didn't even play good.
Quarterbacks in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
A new week begins right here, right now, live on a Monday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid. All across the SportsGrid network, that includes sportsgrid.com/watch, where you can find your favorite destination to consume everything all across the grid. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. We are here together live for the next 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern Time, bright and early on a Monday morning to start a new week, but with a recap of a monumental sports weekend. We set the stage for it on Friday morning, detailing all of the events that we had in store over the past 48 hours, and they lived up to the billing. A couple of Game 7s on a Sunday afternoon and evening. First on the hardwood in Oklahoma City, and then further heartbreak once again north of the border in the 6th for the Toronto Maple Leafs when it comes to playoff action. A huge weekend around Major League Baseball. Rivalry weekend, an update, of course, on the Vetter Cup between the Padres and the Mariners. The Subway Series between the Yanks and the Mets. We'll talk about Friday inside Madison Square Garden and tell you where things stand around the NBA playoffs. A triple crown in the second leg of it and a comeback for journalism. Big for us here on a Monday morning. And Scotty Scheffler, inevitable once again at a major championship. So much to break down, DRS, over these 3 hours up until 11 a.m. Eastern.
Absolutely. And by the way, just looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs fans, sometimes in a fandom, Ben, what would you rather have? Like, let me just enjoy myself in a series, right? Get the 2-0 series lead at home. Vibes are so high here. Or excuse me, the 2-0 series lead. And then it's like, all right, let's get down to game number 5. We're in our own building. You spend a lot of money. It's a pivotal game. You get smoked in that game. Your team shows heart in game number 6 to send it back to game number 7, and you get smoked again. Like, that's so tough as a fan. Like, all you want to do is enjoy yourself in the moment. And some people will say, like, well, it's better to get blown out than never have a chance at all and lose in overtime. Newsflash. Right. No, it's not. When you're out of that building, like midway through the second period and heartbreak again, that's not too much fun. But you're right, Ben. We had a lot of stuff to talk about. Even though the game number 7s, we love them. The final scores tells you that we didn't get that much excitement yesterday out of them, though.
Maybe not the most competitive Game 7s, but the two best words in sports in 2 spots. We start in Oklahoma City at the home of the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, but a huge playoff moment in the lives of this Thunder core, led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Could this OKC unit outlast a team that won a championship just 2 years ago to win that winner-take-all Game 7 and advance to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in nearly a decade? The answer, a resounding yes. A 32-point yes, if you will, with a 32-point win for the Thunder, 125-99 93 over the Denver Nuggets. OKC DRS closing as an 8.5 point favorite. They comfortably cruised. The Thunder trailed by double digits, though, early in that opening quarter. They were down by 5 at the end of the opening 12 minutes. But from there, using a huge second and third quarter rally, it was all Thunder basically the rest of the way. Oklahoma City advances to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2016.
There they go, moving on up. That's what they're supposed to do as the number 1 overall seed. That's why you play the entire season to get game number 7s in your own building. But you're right. In that first quarter, you take a look at Christian Brown. It's like, oh my goodness, is he going to have that guy that had that game number 7 that is going to drop 30 points out of nowhere and carry his team to a victory? But you saw the second quarter, 39-20. It was a wrap from that point on. The better team is Oklahoma City. They showed it in game number 7.
Absolutely so, DRS. And in a matchup all series long between MVP contenders, the guy that had won 3 of those awards in the last 4 years, and the guy in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that is going to win it here in 2024-25, SGA performed brilliantly. 35 points, never more, but exactly 35 points yesterday in a huge bounce-back performance on the offensive side for Jalen Williams for OKC. So a blowout at home for the Thunder. They take advantage of being at home in a decisive Game 7. The Maple Leafs up in the 6 in Toronto. Not quite. Against the reigning Stanley Cup champs and the Florida Panthers. The Panthers head up to Toronto and absolutely blitz the Maple Leafs. They score 3 in the second, 3 more in the third period, and knock out the Leafs once again with a 6-1 victory, DRS, in game number 7 on the road.
It's tough for Canada. I mean, it's tough. You still got Edmonton out there. You got Winnipeg that got knocked off. So you have one final team that you can root for. And again, you're rooting as a nation as Canada, even though like Toronto probably hopes that Edmonton's not the team that breaks through, and Calgary nonetheless, because they are rivalries. But at one time we have to talk about the Maple Leafs have a high payroll roster with expensive superstars that can't win anything. Is it more fun for the Toronto fans to watch their superstars play knowing that these guys are not clutch at all and will never win? Or do you start the rebuilding process by let some of these high-priced veterans go and try to rebuild? That's the question for the Leafs, because it's not working in Toronto.
Last 9 playoff appearances for Toronto, 9 consecutive years, by the way. Just 2 first-round series wins, but never 2 in conference finals. In fact, the Leafs haven't been to the Eastern Conference Finals since 2002. Major championship number 3 in the second major of the year for Scottie Scheffler. He wins the PGA Championship for the first time in his career in dominant fashion. 11 under par for the tournament, and even par 71 yesterday in the final round at Quail Hollow. Got a little dicey as Scottie made the turn to the back 9 in Charlotte, but then John Rahm collapsed. The rest of the leaderboard kind of made its way for Scottie Scheffler to be standing on top by a large margin at the end. He wins by 5 for major championship number 3 in his career. His 15th win, DRS, in the last 3+ seasons.
He's dominant. There's no doubt about it. But I got to, it's not a problem that I have. And the fake hat spike at the end was okay for me. But this is a guy that looks like he might be on a dominant run for the next 10 years. And the guy is just boring as all get out. I mean, no emotion at all instead of the fake hat spike. I mean, pump the crowd up. Walk down 16, 17, and 18 with a 6-shot lead here. Fire up the crowd. Sign autographs. Get the crowd going. They're chanting your name. Scottie, Scottie. And he could care less. That's my only great golfer. Ridiculously boring personality, though. Come on.
I mean, that mentality, that personality is why he is so good. Competitive on the inside, but doesn't really waver. It is why he has been dominant. He has won all 3 of his major titles by at least 3 shots. But DRS, no drama, no emotion. 1 year and a day after he was placed in the back of a cop car and arrested, he prevails as a major champ. This guy is a success story in the biggest way. How about rivalry weekend in Major League Baseball? The Yankees take the rubber match last night, playing 6 in the home half of the 8th up in the Bronx to edge out the Mets in the opener of the Subway Series, or at least the first set of the Subway Series this year, winning last night 8-2.
Yeah, I love baseball. Baseball's fun, man. Cody Bellinger popping a grand slam in that game. Pete, the polar bear, throwing a baseball away in a close game that could have kept that game closer, or maybe even get into extra innings if that play is made. But also, If you are the Mets, you're driving, you look in that rear view mirror. Oh, there's Bryce Harper right behind you. Hey, guys. Ooh, it's a good race out there in the NL East, man. Love it.
Spoken like a true fan of the Fightins. Who needs Juan Soto when Cody Bellinger has a big weekend and 6 RBIs in the series finale last night? For the first time, DRS, you know my favorite team, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, sweep the Dodgers this weekend. First sweep for the Halos over the Dodgers in a decade and a half.
I'm telling you right now, like, you put away the hats for the Dodgers, you throw on that Angels hat. Like, Ben lives in New York City. He understands. When the Knicks lose, they throw on the Nets hat. When the Nets lose, they throw on the Knicks hat. When the Yankees lose, they throw on the Mets hat. That's the way everybody does it in New York City. So why can't you do that in California?
Yeah, maybe so, DRS. The Brewers yesterday finally stopped that 13-game win streak for the Twins. Milwaukee avoiding a sweep at home in the finale. Again, that 13-game win streak ended for Minnesota.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, too, because you had Buxton and also Correa on the IL because they collided into each other and still kept winning. Sooner than later, you got to lose a game, and they did yesterday.
Opening weekend of the WNBA yesterday, the Minnesota Lynx and the Washington Mystics improved to a perfect 2-0. There's a lot to discuss around the opener in Indianapolis. Maybe we'll get to it later. We go to the NBA up next.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
that's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times, but screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas?
It wasn't that it wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a 7th-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
I told you he's going to be number 1 overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
you're doing your thing now where you double down on a take that is incorrect.
The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play.
He's not so. There were 2 perfectly rated quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Monday morning on the Early Line on SportsGrid. A critical Game 7 yesterday afternoon in Oklahoma City to decide our final spot in the conference finals out west, featuring the number 1 seed in the Western Conference for a second straight year, the Thunder. But could this Thunder core take a step they had not? Could this Thunder core use their new playoff experience and growth to capitalize on the moment? Or would the NBA champions from just 2 seasons ago show their might, albeit on the road and as a hefty underdog? It was Oklahoma City and all OKC yesterday in game number 7. A 32-point win for the Thunder 125-93. Oklahoma City comfortably cruises to a cover as an 8.5-point home favorite. A total of 214, albeit in a Game 7, does sky to the over. In DRS, we have learned a lot about this Thunder core, I would say, throughout this highly competitive second-round set against the Nugs. And we learned even more yesterday in Game 7. Not a great start for Oklahoma City. Denver had an 11-point lead, 21-10, with just over 4 minutes remaining in that first quarter. The Nuggets led by 5 at the end of that opening stanza. And basically from that point, it was all Oklahoma City. A huge second quarter, a double-digit lead, leading by 14 at the break, and the Thunder cruise in the second half to get back to the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2016.
68-win team in the regular season, OKC. And again, this is why you fight to get these games on your home court. You don't want to be in elevation in Denver trying to win a game number 7. You want to be home in front of OKC fans that were going nuts yesterday wearing all blue in the stands. Now, understand this, too. You look at OKC, and I like the first round that they had. It was a sweep. But you know what else I like even more? When you have to face adversity, and you surpass that adversity, and you're not even into the Western Conference Finals yet. That's what you got. Denver's got the heart of a champion. As you said, they won just a few short years ago a world championship. You have them in game number 7 with arguably the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic, and you shut the door on them. And also, even in the game you faced it, early on, it's very easy for a young team that's not really used to winning or advancing deep into the playoffs. You're down 10 points in game number 7 right off the bat. You said, oh no, Jokic's going to have one of those games, 40 and 20. There's nothing we can do to stop him. Aaron Gordon's out here on one leg. Are you kidding me? This guy's going to beat us here. Yeah. And you quickly slam that door in the second quarter with a 39-20 lead. And then the second half, you didn't give any life to Denver by winning that period by 11 points as well. I was impressed from what I saw out of OKC, and also breaking through the glass ceiling with 35 points was SGA. He had a lot of other players absolutely step up. That was probably the most shocking thing in the game number 7, that he crossed over that 33, 34-point threshold. But also, shout out my guy Russell Westbrook, who played 22 minutes, Ben, and finished a minus 34 here, trying to show up the home crowd like, you know what? I'm going to be the villain. He wasn't the villain yesterday. OKC easy over the Denver Nuggets.
Stifling defense out of OKC, really, for a good majority of this 7-game set, but especially in that winner-take-all Game 7 yesterday. And a huge bounce back offensively, Donnie, for Jalen Williams, who in game number 6 in Denver, 3 of 16 from the floor, finishing with 6 points, 0 for 4 from beyond the arc. Yesterday, so much better. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is always going to lead the way for Oklahoma City, but you need that second option. Is it Chet Holmgren? Is it the combination of Chet and Jalen Williams? He had 24 points yesterday, 10 of 17 from the field. And overall, DRS, in this series, there was always going to be that comparison of what has been a two-player race for a good majority of this season to win the MVP award. Nikola Jokic continuing to put up his MVP numbers, averaging a triple-double throughout the regular season. But in this 7-game series, never a triple-double for Nikola Jokic. Yesterday, a 20-point performance, a rebound shy, and a couple of assists shy of getting to that triple-double number. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doing what he does best. A 35-point performance, the most he has scored in this series, in the most important game of this second-round series to guide Oklahoma City to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and by the way, also, like, beggars can't be choosers, right? Like, you saw the Denver Nuggets. There was a lot of fight in that team, but if you understood what was probably going to take place, you would have laid the wood there with Oklahoma City, right? Like, I didn't have a bet in this game on a side. I thought the Oklahoma City Thunder would win, but I wasn't comfortable because we always start to believe anything can happen into Game 7, and rightfully so. Aaron Gordon was on one leg. Michael Porter Jr. was damaged goods here with his shoulder. Like, you needed Jamal Murray to step up. 6 of 16 from the floor, 1 of 8 from three-point range. You were getting that effort out of Christian Brown early. I think he had 10 or 12 points in the first quarter alone and got those early. But you just can't rely on that. And if you need energy coming off the bench, it's Peyton Wilson playing 20 minutes and a minus 27. Or you have Russell Westbrook, 22 minutes and a minus 34. Like, nothing worked yesterday for the Denver Nuggets, and it was an OKC avalanche starting in the second quarter. But you should have known entering into it, like, Denver was just damaged goods. They were going to give it all they could, and all they could only lasted one full quarter.
Yeah, absolutely so. And DRS, after the Nuggets win outright in game number 6 to extend this series, stave off elimination and force a Game 7, it was a ton of public betting love on the Nuggets as an underdog, at least from the spread, to keep this decisive Game 7 to a closer margin. Just the second cover for Oklahoma City in this 7-game series, both coming at home. Game 2 by 43, Game 7 by 32. And that was a story, at least in my mind, for the Thunder since game number 2 of their opening round series against the Memphis Grizzlies. You mentioned the 68 wins for this Thunder group, most in the NBA. Also the best cover team in the association all year long. Booked as a favorite just 3 times throughout the regular season. OKC was the only team in the NBA to cover in more than 61% of their games. They had covered in 65% of their games, but Donnie had only covered once in their last 8 games entering game number 7 here in the playoffs. So to win in the fashion that they did in such a comfortable and impressive way, again, I think speaks to the strength of OKC. The first time into the conference finals round since Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook were there, but wearing Thunder uniforms.
Yeah, exactly. And also, we're going to understand that OKC, you have the game number 7. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of energy that went into it. Now, granted, it wasn't a 5-point game later, a two-possession game. They won easily, but there's no rest for the weary, Ben. They get off today, and they are right back at it in the Western Conference Finals on a Tuesday night. Sometimes that's a good thing, stay in playoff rhythm, but we'll see how a younger team looking to advance in the playoffs handles that.
I would love to get DRS, the schedule maker's thought on that being the case for Tuesday. We'll talk the Western Conference Finals next.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this one? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
The Oklahoma City Thunder, the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, advance to the Western Conference Finals, as we expected for this year's Thunder team. But this organization had not been back to the Western Conference Finals previously now since 2016. OKC, though, DRS, has been a hefty favorite to win the West basically since December, a minus money favorite for the last 2 to 3 months, and at its peak throughout the postseason, a minus 270 favorite. That number altered slightly after Denver won game number 6 to extend this series and force a game 7 yesterday. But after the Thunder take care of business, winning by 32, what's the number? What's the series outright price for the Western Conference Finals between the Thunder and the T-Wolves? You see it there, minus 375 in favor of OKC. Is that justified in your estimation?
It is justified based on like the seedings, right? And also understand this, like we're all okay seed up now because they just beat Denver, and Denver's a good team. They got Nikola Jokic, game 7, they were impressive. And it's almost like you forget, like the Timberwolves easily dispatched to the Los Angeles Lakers, but they're not going to get any credit for beating the Warriors without Steph Curry. And that's the issue. Now, also, they didn't have an extended series with them, Ben. It's not like it went 6 and 7 games. Like, man, we had to fight and beat them without Steph Curry. Like, they easily handled them, but I don't think the credit is going to be there. The minus 375 seems impressive, saying, well, I don't know if I want to take that, and maybe take the plus 300. But just ask yourself this. Like, if you're just looking at the series itself without any odds, do you actually think the Minnesota Timberwolves can go in and beat Oklahoma City when Oklahoma City has home court advantage? I like Minnesota. They got good defense. They got a superstar on offense in the Ant-Man Anthony Edwards. But at the same time, I just don't think they have enough to beat OKC. But again, the question is, will you lay the 375 as a favorite, and are you that excited to take OKC? Or is there a chance that you can play this series as, all right, give me the Timberwolves plus 300 here. Hopefully the Timberwolves can win one game in OKC. Now I have the advantage with hedging options, and apparently then that they'll be back into the series with home court advantage on their side as opposed to OKC. I expect this to be a longer series. This will be 6 or 7 games unless we get a catastrophe type injury on each side. We just saw 7 games between the Denver Nuggets and OKC, evenly matched opponents, and I think you'll get the same. So for me, I see that number at minus 1.5, minus 162. It does make some sense. But I'll be honest, I'll be surprised if this game does go 5. I think it's at least going 6 or 7 games in this one. But I do think, once again, you play the entire season, Ben, to get a home court advantage and a decisive game number 7 on your home court. OKC wins the series, but I do believe it will be an extended series.
Probably, DRS, you could make this argument for Oklahoma City now, at least starting in the second round, that their opponent could be a little bit more experienced in these playoff moments, at least out west. Second consecutive trip for Anthony Edwards and Minnesota to the Western Conference Finals. Obviously a large change. Julius Randle inserted now for Karl Anthony Towns, but basically everybody else there for the T-Wolves was there a season ago. Minnesota entered that series against Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks as the slight series outright favorites. Here, a pretty hefty underdog at plus 300. Now, in terms of its duration, DRS, that's a really interesting component. You saw it there. For this series to go 6 games, the most likely at plus 225. And oftentimes, if the most likely is 6, well, the second shortest number is probably 7. Not in this case. Second shortest number is 5 games at plus 235. In the shortest series correct score, the team to win and in how many games is the Thunder in 5 in gentleman's sweep fashion. That's a plus 270 number. The odds makers have loved Oklahoma City all year long, even entering a game 6 against the Denver Nuggets. So it's no surprise to see the odds makers stacking things up in favor of the Thunder. But again, we're not expecting this. At least the odds are not expecting this to be the longest and most competitive Western Conference Finals we have seen.
No, and also understand this, the way we're talking about this series setting up as we set the stage in the previous segment, where you have a game tomorrow night, no rest for the weary. I still think Oklahoma City is going to have some nice adrenaline coming off that game number 7. If I'm betting or looking at the first 2 games, I do believe there will be a split in Oklahoma City. I think OKC gets game number 1, which is against, counterculture, I should say, because most people say, oh, rested and ready, Minnesota, they'll be ready. And I understand that, but they've been off for quite some time. OKC still at home, still in rhythm, but then you don't get that 3-day break. It's only a 2-day break once again. 1 day off, you play again. I think Minnesota gets game number 2. That's how I bet it. But I do think either way, 1-1, we're going back to Minnesota. I believe that.
The only 2-day break the Thunder have had since the start of the series against the Nuggets was in between game 6 and game 7 yesterday. A rapid turnaround for Oklahoma City tomorrow night. You saw the odds there. The Thunder, a 7.5-point home favorite to Madison Square Garden. Next.
but still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times, but screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
So game number 7 yesterday afternoon in Oklahoma City. The only other NBA playoff game we had all weekend. Game number 6 on a Friday night inside Madison Square Garden. As we shared on Friday, previewing this game and its significance for the New York Knicks and, of course, the reigning NBA champs in the Boston Celtics. The biggest game inside MSG for New York as a franchise in 25 years. Why? The Knicks hoping for their first appearance in the Eastern Conference Finals in 25 years since the year 2000. And that's exactly what New York capitalized on a Friday night inside the world's most famous arena. Doing so in astounding blowout fashion over the reigning NBA champs. 119-81. Nearly a 40-point win for New York. The absence of Jason Tatum in the second full game without him for Boston, just far too much for the C's to overcome. And everybody in the Knicks starting 5 taking advantage of exactly that from the start in game number 6 on Friday night. New York, a slight favorite for the first time in this series. They easily cover, laying 2.5 points at home. A total of 211, holding the Celtics to only 81, does stay under. And party like it's 2000, DRS. The New York Knicks are back in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Now, let me go back to shows that we did here, right here on the Early Line Bet on Thursday and Friday. And you repeatedly kept bringing up these questions and saying, look, I'm going to read you, Donnie, what the FanDuel Sportsbook is telling you. That the Celtics were a plus 430 to win the Eastern Conference and 13-1 and 14-1 to win the NBA championship without Jason Tatum. And my responses were, I wouldn't take it if it was 2 million to 1 in either direction. And it played out exactly that way. The fact that you saw the Celtics win game number 5 on their home court and people started to go like, hey, maybe the Celtics are better without Jason Tatum. We knew the bottom was going to fall out. The adrenaline was there. The championship pride was like, we're not going to get embarrassed in game number 5. They shot the lights out, but you understood one thing, and the Knicks understood it as well. You got game number 5. We are not getting to a game number 7, and they ended that story on Friday night. Was it a close game in the first quarter? Yes. The second quarter was a blowout, and away you went in a 119-81 final. I liked what I saw of the Celtics without Tatum. They still fought. But the fact that the sports books were still posting the Celtics as if they were fully intact and down 3-1 to the New York Knicks, to not only come back and win that series, then beat the Indiana Pacers, then beat OKC. As I told you again, it could have been 2 million to 1 on a free bet, and I still would not have taken the Boston Celtics.
Donnie, I'm not patting ourselves on the back. I just think when you work in sports, when you're around sports long enough, you see the idea of momentum, especially in the postseason or in those critical junctures. When you lose a player, when you lose your superstar, momentum and some of that immediate aftermath, you can fill the void. But it's pretty clear to see when you do this long enough, what about that second instance, whether it's the following full game or the next game after? How do you fill that gap? And that's the issue, because Boston is the team that can make its punch. In Tom Thibodeau and New York in game number 5, after planning the entirety of their regular season and entering the second round set, first and foremost, probably highlighting Jason Tatum and how the Celtics look with Tatum in the fold. Now we're scrambling to figure out their own adjustments for game 5. Boston can make the punch, they can be the aggressor, but then both teams have to adjust from there in game 6, and the team that has more talent is always going to win the day. And that was the New York Knicks. And Donnie, we've talked about this a few times here in the playoffs. Should the Timberwolves get credit for knocking out Golden State in only 5 games when the Warriors did not have Steph Curry? Yes, they should, because it only took them 5 games, and they hammered Golden State in doing so. How about the Pacers against a shorthanded and maybe banged up Cleveland side? Indiana did not need 7. They got it done in 5, even winning on the road in Cleveland in that 5th game. So for New York to respond in the way they did in game 6, to take full advantage of being inside MSG in an atmosphere the Knicks had not seen in 2.5 decades, a hat tip to the Knicks. All 5 starters scoring in double figures. 4 of the 5 with at least 21. And the guy that scored the fewest points, that would be Josh Hart, showing his value in other ways with a triple-double. 10 points, 11 boards, 11 dimes. Everybody on New York firing on all cylinders on Friday. They win by 38, nearly by 40, had a 41-point lead in the third quarter.
It's fun, too, because you look at the Knicks. I'm not a Knicks fan by any stretch, as you know, but when you see the atmosphere and you see the passion, you can always support that. So when we talk about, like, the NFL, like the teams that you feel bad for, so to say, like the fans themselves, like the Cleveland Browns, man, they're there every single year, and they just get kicked in the teeth, and they keep coming back for more. Like, the mecca of basketball is Madison Square Garden, which usually would be, Ben, they hung 16 banners in the last 40 years. No. They hung one banner like 50 years at this point, and those fans continue to come back and believe in their team, and now they see a pathway to victory. There's probably something so special where you're a Knicks player right now, and you're taking the court, understand that the entire city is behind you, in the arena, outside the arena, and on TV. And for you to perform in that moment, the Knicks fans are only going to get stronger as they go, because now as they line up against the Pacers, they can sort of see that vision now behind the trees, like, you know what? We can get to the finals. And if we face OKC, it's not, again, Michael Jordan or a healthy LeBron James. Like, it might be OKC, which is a damn good basketball team, but you have the feeling you're not running up against a buzzsaw. You can win that as well. So I'm enjoying the passion of the Knicks fans right now, and it just feels like they go a who's who, Ben, sitting courtside and in that arena every single night, whether it's former players, players that currently play in the city, and or superstars and movie stars all lined around. It's pretty cool to watch. I love the event.
When you call it the world's most famous arena, when you call it the Mecca, you have to show out in the way that New York has throughout this postseason, and certainly in game number 6. A party up and down 7th Avenue on Friday night, not far from our studios. We're here at 35th and 7th. We feel the electricity throughout New York as well. And DRS, you mentioned that at least on paper, no buzzsaws await the Knicks after winning here in the second round set. In check, first Eastern Conference Finals appearance for New York in 2.5 decades since 2000. Now hoping for their first appearance in the NBA Finals since the year prior to that, 1999. And maybe the first Larry O'Brien trophy in Midtown Manhattan since 1973, over a half century ago. We'll talk about the series that awaits New York and their old bitter rivals, the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals in just a moment. But one of the reasons, DRS, no buzzsaw awaits is because the Knicks got through that presumed buzzsaw in the reigning NBA champion Boston Celtics, who were the preseason favorites to win 2 consecutive NBA titles, who through most of the year were an odds-on favorite to win the Eastern Conference crown and had the best price or second best number, but slightly only behind Oklahoma City to win an NBA championship. Donnie, you would call it a non-successful year because the C's come up short in the second round. But of course, the story is going to be the absence of Jason Tatum. I would just remind everybody that Tatum was fully healthy as the New York Knicks had their dramatic comebacks in the first 4 games of this series.
Oh, yeah, and make no mistake about it. We don't know how it would play it out, but I'm going to tell you right now, Knicks still win that series if Jason Tatum never gets injured here. That's a 3-1 series lead. The Knicks are going to win one of those 3 games, and absolutely they did that. But also understand, when you hear about the window, have to capitalize when you're there. The Celtics got the job done last year, and you figure they had probably maybe a 2 or 3 more year window. Now we see Jaylen Brown heading into the offseason, maybe a meniscus injury that he's going to have to get fixed up. Tatum is not going to come, or Tatum's not going to come back next year. Free agents, Al Horford, Peyton Pritchard. This is going to be one of those teams where we don't know what to expect here from the Celtics. So when you're in that window, you better get it done because you never know what the future holds, and we don't know what that future is for the Boston Celtics.
You saw how short the numbers were on Boston to win the East and the NBA championship entering this year. Those numbers are going to be much longer entering 2025-26. Pacers, Knicks, Eastern Conference Finals next.
Knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career, made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wants to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the man.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that rim. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Party like it's 2000 in New York City, and it kind of is. The New York Knicks back in the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years, and an old foe awaits in the Indiana Pacers. This year's Indiana Pacers team and last year's Indiana Pacers team in the Eastern Conference Finals for 2 straight seasons. How did Indiana get to the Eastern Conference Finals a year ago? A Game 7 victory inside Madison Square Garden against the New York Knicks. So there is a ton of bitter playoff rivalry between these two clubs, DRS, and even some recent form as we saw just a postseason ago. The last time the Knicks were in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2000, it was Reggie Miller and his Pacers knocking New York out in only 6 games. So where there is a lot of history and rivalry at stake between these two sides, where the New York Knicks will enter this year's rendition of the Eastern Conference Finals as nearly $1.50 favorite. The Knicks minus 146 in the series outright price to knock off Indiana and get some revenge this time around. But Donnie, it went to 7, a playoff ago. It is expected to go to 7 here in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2025. And really, I have a hard time faulting the odds makers for that anticipation.
Yeah, it's a great matchup. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we are expecting certainly a longer series here. And the question's going to be is, how hungry are the New York Knicks? He said, what kind of question is that, Donnie? Of course they're hungry. They haven't won a championship in 50 years. I want to see how they come out, particularly, Ben, in game number 1, because that's a lot of emotion. You vanquish the Boston Celtics. You can see the Eastern Conference Finals. You can see now the NBA championship rounds if you get there for the NBA Finals. And I want to see how they come out in game number 1, because that's going to set the tone. Like, there will be a lot of panic in the streets in New York after all that jubilation if they lose game number 1 to the Pacers, who are rested and are ready. And it's the same thing we talk about in OKC. Like, okay, OKC not really used to winning championships. They don't have one as an organization. They won a game number 7. How do they play it out 24 to 48 hours later when they're back on the court? Because it's not like, hey, been there, done that. We're through this every single year. Injuries, not injuries. We make deep runs in the playoffs. That's not the case here. But I do love the old school 1990s, Dale Davis, Rick Smits, Reggie Miller, those teams going at it. Market Square Arena back there in Indianapolis back in the day was always rocking. Madison Square Garden, obviously, as well. The New York Knicks, the Indiana Pacers, the Spike Lee, the choking incidents. We're going to get into all of that. But I got to tell you, I still think a lot of teams coming into the playoffs, like, hey, we got a chance to win it all. Nobody gave the Pacers any shot. I didn't hear anybody talking about the Pacers before the playoffs started. Like, you know what? I think they can go to the Eastern Conference Finals or win an NBA championship. They got me as believers right now. I like this Pacers team.
Absolutely so, DRS. I really like this Pacers team. I believe Indiana has a ton of depth in all of their playoff victories. They have won 8 of their 10 games this postseason. In 7 of the 8, they have had at least 6 players score in double figures. The only one not in game number 5 in Cleveland to ice out that second round set against the Cavaliers. Again, an old school rivalry with some recent form. These two sides met 6 times in an 8-year span to end out the 90s as a decade, including the 1999-2000 season. Again, the last time the Knicks were in the Eastern Conference Finals, they lost in 6 against Indiana. The last time that New York reached the NBA Finals, 1999. Who do they beat in the Eastern Conference Finals in 6 games? These Indiana Pacers. And that would be one thing, Donnie, if these two sides really just had the late 90s and early 2000s. But I think it is amplified with the fact that these two teams, basically in large part, looking the exact same. A couple of additions, of course, for New York, namely Karl Anthony Towns. The Pacers, basically the same exact side that played in the Eastern Conference Finals a season ago. These two teams have some current history against each other. Of course, a clip that was making its way around social media of Tyrese Halliburton and Jalen Brunson facing off in the WWE cages over the summer, setting the stage for this rivalry. Not AEW, tough scene, but WWE. And to Donnie's point, game number 1, some time off for both sides. New York last played on Friday. By the time we get to game 1 on Wednesday night inside Madison Square Garden, 8 days in between games for Indiana. The New York Knicks, game number 1 at home inside Madison Square Garden, a 4-point favorite in MSG against the Pacers. Look at that total for an Eastern Conference Finals matchup, 223 between New York and Indiana.
I mean, Tom Thibodeau might be sitting at home right now. I'm like, I don't even need subs for the next game. We've had so much time off. So everybody get ready. 48 plus minutes if we need it for our starting five, which does help because now you're taking a look at, rest is like, okay, the Pacers ended their series early, but the Knicks have been off for so long. It doesn't matter at this point. So you're going to get a pretty clean game. And you're right. It is good to see a 223 there pop up on the board at the FanDuel Sportsbook because we're expecting a fun series. Sometimes you do like knockdown, drag out, fun, 98, 99-point games, but I don't really like that all that much, particularly early in the series. Get the open. We understand games 5, 6, and 7 are always tougher because you could see the end of the series and how much every possession means. But there's no reason to believe games 1 and games 2, we can't get some high-flying acrobatics here for 230-plus right off the bat with two healthy teams heading into this direction. And also, the Knicks do play decent defense. The Pacers do as well, but the tempo should be there, and the scoring is there. I like this series for scoring, and I see the Knicks their favorite as a 4-point favorite. I understand that as well. More of a coin flip to me, probably leaning right now towards the Pacers getting the 4 points just to see meshes. But I do believe we should get scoring right away. And also, Ben, how about Pops Halliburton? Rebirth comes back to the Garden, game number 1. Sunglasses on, bath towel with his son's head on it. Let's go.
Free Mr. Halliburton. He served his time. He has done the crime. He missed the entirety of a second round series. His son. You're on to something. Let's make some calls. However, the son Tyrese, the more important figure in this series, has said that Pops is enjoying just watching from home. We'll see if Mr. Halliburton remakes an appearance here in the Eastern Conference Finals. DRS, we have so much time to discuss this. We'll do so on the other side of the break. The best way, I think, to bet the Eastern Conference Finals is maybe looking at the NBA championship prices for whichever side you believe is going to win the Eastern Conference crown. Because I already have a ticket on Indiana at 9-1 after they wrap things up against Cleveland. I want your thoughts on the best way to bet the remainder of the postseason in the association next.
Knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career, made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned, an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the Manning.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high. But the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
Just a little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The Eastern Conference Finals between a couple of old playoff rivalries and foes. The New York Knicks, an ever so slight favorite at -146 to win the series outright. The shortest number in terms of the duration of this series is 7 games at +186. Shortest correct score, the team to win and in how many games, is the Knicks in 7 inside Madison Square Garden. What a theater that would be, +370. The Pacers beat the Knicks last year in the second round inside Madison Square Garden in 7 games. Shortest price for the Pacers to win this series as well at +470. Donnie, how do you approach betting this series? It sounds like both you and I kind of are giving the Pacers maybe more credit than the overall public sentiment has been around Indiana throughout this playoff run for a second straight season.
Yeah, exactly, because I think both of these teams are pretty evenly matched. Now, granted, you always have to give the edge to the team with home court advantage, and the New York Knicks do have that, which is why the FanDuel Sportsbook is listing them as a favorite for the series at -146. But if you ask me, okay, Donnie, first 2 games in Madison Square Garden, what's the likely outcome? It can be 2-0 either way, right? But we're feeling that it's probably going to be 1-1, which means that the Pacers then would have home court advantage, and that Pacers price of +124 would not be +124. It'd probably be looking more like -124 at that point now. So to start the series, I would be playing the dog price here, and that could quickly change. You get the New York Knicks in a 120-105 game after, and there we go. Like, hey, the Knicks are truly the better team, and now the uphill climb starts for the Pacers. That might be a little bit different. But me looking at the series in itself, I'm intrigued by the dog price because I do feel that we are going to get a 6 or a 7-game series, which means the underdog is going to be live all the way through. And again, the caption point of, okay, you might be able to get the Pacers at a +124. After they win game number 1, they'll be the favorite in the series slightly, and then you can start maybe coming back on the New York Knicks to sort of get that even hedge, or even better, right? The Pacers take 2 games in Madison Square Garden, then you fire the Knicks up and you sit back and go, hey, let's go New York at a much better price than what I get on the Pacers, but a worst case scenario, you have plus money in your pocket. So many different ways to look at it for me, Ben, but to start the series, I'm trying to find plus money.
I completely agree, DRS. This series, more so than the Western Conference Finals, feels as though the result of every game is going to drastically swing the outright prices, where you are going to have multiple moments probably to bet whatever side you feel with a pretty good plus money number. Ultimately, I think the correct handicap is Indiana on the series spread, getting a game and a half to at least get this to 7, or as I expect to maybe even win this series outright over New York. The chalk you got to lay, though, at -188. Don't love it. Over under in terms of series total game, 5.5. Of course, when the most likely is 7, the over has the hefty juice of 5.5 games to see at least 6 in this series is -188. The way that I have already bet this, DRS, from an Eastern Conference perspective, it may be overall, was after the Pacers quickly dispatched the Cavs in 5 games, betting Indiana's price at +900 to win an NBA championship with a pretty good, hefty number to get to that NBA Finals, as I believe, or at least sometimes throughout that championship series, a cash-out opportunity. So that's the way I'm going to approach it at the very start. And that number for Indiana has shortened by $2, but the Pacers still the longest price at +700. A lot of plus money available on 3 of the 4 teams still standing, just not Oklahoma City. And maybe because of Oklahoma City, the Thunder now the strongest favorite we have seen to win a Larry O'Brien trophy at -175.
And they should be. They should be the favorites. They're the best team left here out of the Final Four. But also, when we take a look at the Pacers, bring up the rear to 7-1 in pricing, you get excited because we've liked the way they played basketball. But also understand this. You beat the Pacers. The Pacers beat the Bucks pretty easy in round number 1. A lot of injury concerns there for the Bucks there. No Damian Lillard. Okay, you handled your business in 4-1. We're not going to take that away from you. Then you take on the Cavaliers, the number 1 overall seed. A lot of injuries to deal with, which included Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland and a couple other players in that lineup. But you did easily dispatch them in 5 games. So we're not going to take away saying like, oh, you got lucky at that point. No, it's the same way that we look sort of at the Minnesota Timberwolves with beating the Warriors. Like, yeah, they beat a team without their superstar, but they easily dispatched of that superstar once he was injured. And that's exactly what the Pacers did. They should be ready for the smoke here, the Pacers. So for me, again, I'm looking to try to find a way to take underdog prices when approaching the NBA championship. And as we talked about the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals, I got that same feeling. Like, there's a legitimate chance, yes, they should be able to beat the New York Knicks. And then you're dealing with a really good price point once you get to the finals. And again, I'll reiterate this again. It's OKC. They're fantastic this year. It's not OKC that's been, hey, This is our third out of 4 years that we're in the NBA Finals. They're still
Right.
new to this whole thing as well. That's where you might get an advantage.
A great point, DRS. We'll discuss further in hour 2 that begins on the other side of the break.